People will find you if they need you. One thing is for sure. What you tell yourself definitely matters. Be aware of that exact moment, that why is this happening to me? You need to start somewhere at least. Productivity hacks and triggers, internal trigger, external trigger. That's all it comes down to. Better way of doing this is... Hey there, I'm Sagar Soni. If you are a chronic overthinker, a wannabe productivity expert, and is having a hard time understanding how to squeeze productivity out of every waking minute, but also learn how to take a chill pill, then you are in the right place. Let's learn from successful people, YouTubers, book authors, podcasters, and every other stranger that I can get my hands on. Well, figuratively, let's learn how they balance their life. Welcome to Beyond the Speech. The recipe for success is survival as an entrepreneur. And if you want a real competitive advantage, love it. Love that work. That's the best thing you can do, is to not ever stop, never give up. That's the saying by Nir Eyal. He's the author of this book, Indistractable. The author specializes in behavior design and habit formation. This entire book surrounds around one topic, and that is the difference, the pull between traction and distraction. What necessarily that means. Traction is just something that takes you towards your goal, and distraction, that is something that takes you away from your goal. That's what the premise is for this book. Now, I know everybody thinks this, that in this generation or for the past couple of decades, phone and social media is the culprit for this issue, for this distraction. But that is not necessarily the only thing that is stopping us from reaching our goals. And the reason I say that, and the reason the author also thinks this, I agree with this, that before phone, there were other things that were pulling our attention. Before phones, we had TVs that were taking us away from our focus, from our goals. So a phone and social media is not necessarily the only issue that is causing this problem. So there has to be a root cause behind this issue. And everything comes down to triggers as per the author. And there are two types of triggers, internal triggers and external triggers. So let's take this one step at a time. Internal triggers, before even getting into this, what Nir is trying to say is that if distraction costs us time, then skillful time management is actually pain management. And what does that necessarily mean? What he's trying to say is that as humans, we constantly try to avoid any kind of discomfort, and anything that causes us any sort of discomfort, we would always step away from it. That causes us to lose our focus because there are things in our life that we need to sit in discomfort for. Now, the things that cause us pain is this discomfort. But if you are willing to sit there, that will allow you to buy back your time that you required to achieve your goals. And that's why time management is essentially pain management. Now, let's get into the two triggers, internal triggers. The first one, we distract ourselves because we don't like the things that we are supposed to do. And as I said, it's because we are trying to step away from the discomfort that we usually get when we are trying to focus. Now, let's take any example out there. If you're a student, you have assignments or work reports that you need to submit in the next couple of days. Or if you have a task at work at your regular job that needs your focus, undivided focus, because you have a deadline coming up. Or if you are writing a YouTube script, or if you're an author who has to finish 1,000 words before the end of the day. These are some of the things that require your undivided attention. But there is always something pulling you completely away from this focus, from this goal. That's what the internal trigger comes in from. Now, this pull, in this case, if we assume that, yes, the pull is through your phone or the notifications, or if you are at work, then it's someone knocking at your cubicle. Or if you're at work, or if you're just working from home, then there are constant email notifications and Slack notifications, Teams messages, anything and everything that is pulling you away from your focus. In order to battle that, the very first step that the author is suggesting is awareness. Now, what does that necessarily mean? The reason awareness is important is because if you are getting away from the focus, what it's trying to say is when you are aware that you are sitting in that discomfort and you are trying to step away from it, be aware of that exact moment, that why is this happening to me? Why am I getting pulled away? Because I'm sitting in that discomfort right now. How do I get out of it? And that's where the first actionable step comes in. It's called the 10-minute rule. Basically, what he's saying is that if you are in the middle of your focus work and you feel the pull of your notification of your phone or your work laptop, wait for 10 minutes before you attend to that pull. Yes, there are people out there who would go cold turkey on this. Everybody has different ways of doing this. Some people actually write down every time they feel this pull because it allows them to track where this pull is coming from, or what is this discomfort stage that is triggering this pull of this distraction. That's what the ultimate aim is. But once you reach that point of awareness, that's where your 10-minute countdown starts. As I said, there are some people who would prefer the cold turkey method. And I would say that that's okay. But the reason I am not a big fan of this is because if you fail at that, we tend to punish ourselves for failing at this. And that's when we tell ourselves that this is a lost cause. Nothing can be done about this. That's why I like the idea of hitting that distraction, going for that distraction once those 10 minutes are up. It allows you to learn slowly, step by step, 10 minutes at a time. What I mean is that today it's going to be 10 minutes, tomorrow is going to be 10 minutes, 20 days from now it's still going to be 10 minutes. But there will come a time where you will be okay sitting in that discomfort, and that will allow you to extend that time. One day you will create this pattern where it won't be discomfort anymore for those 10 minutes. So you can challenge yourself that, okay, this time I can go 15 minutes, just 5 more minutes before I reach for that trigger, before I reach for my phone. That's the aim behind the 10-minute rule. Have that compassion if you fail after that 10 minutes, because technically, yes, you failed, you reached for that trigger, but you do that enough times, you generate this pattern that will essentially become part of your identity, that you are someone who can focus for 10 minutes today, 10 minutes for a month, 15 minutes for 2 months, and slowly but surely there will come a time where you will be able to focus for 1 hour at a time. You will be able to be comfortable. You will be comfortable in that discomfort without reaching for that distraction. And yes, as I said, there are people out there who would prefer to go cold turkey on this. But if you happen to punish yourself if you ever fail, that's a problem, because whether you agree with one method or not, one thing is for sure. What you tell yourself definitely matters. That's why compassion is important. And that's why in my mind, this 10-minute rule is actually beneficial for us to go towards our goal and going towards traction instead of distraction. This is all internal triggers. But now when we talk about external triggers, I think that external triggers are a little easier. When I say that, I mean things like notifications on your phone or emails that we constantly have the habit of looking at our emails as soon as you reach work because we don't know any better. Then we start replying to those emails. Now, few minutes, half an hour might go by and a coworker will come knocking at your cubicle, at your desk. That's another level of distraction. After a while, you feel like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to focus on this report that I have due in the next couple of hours or couple of days. As soon as you sit down, someone else's emergency hits your inbox and you think, oh, maybe I should attend this. Oh, this seems important. Let me look at that right now. Or someone happens to message you on Teams that you feel like you need to attend it right then and there. These are the kind of triggers that are pulling you away. Now, there are definitely ways of ensuring that you can stay away from this distraction. Now, as I said, every now and then we get these pulls from different angles, different sides all the time in our lives. And these 10-minute rules are nice that you are not going to respond to, or you're not going to attend to that notification or that buzz that is pulling you. The better way of doing this is completely avoiding it. What I mean by that is, and I've tried this before, even if you keep your Outlook, your email app open on the side, and you think, I'm just going to focus on this, even if an email comes up, that's okay, I'm not going to respond to it. That notification pop-up window that shows up on the screen, that's a problem, which is why I am a full believer of just turning that app down entirely. I just close my email a couple of hours a day whenever I'm trying to sit down and focus on the task at hand. Now, that applies to Slack messages, that applies to emails, that applies to Teams messages, or any phone calls. Now, I know every productivity book talks about this, but they solely focus on Silicon Valley companies, and that is not always transferable to other regular jobs. I fall into those regular jobs where sometimes emergencies come our way that we need to urgently attend to the question at hand. I completely get that. But there has never been a time, I know for a fact, because I have been in that situation, that if someone emails you, they do not expect an answer that absolute second. Nobody expects that. And if that problem is actually that urgent, there are many ways of finding you and them coming to your desk and knocking on your cubicle to find an answer for what they were looking for. So don't worry about, what if I miss this urgent email? What if something is actually going wrong and I need to attend to this? People will find you if they need you. So don't worry about that. I have tried this firsthand, and it's a very efficient way of spending your time, your hours, day after day after day at work. And this applies to any kind of industry, any kind of work that you have going on. I've started this for a couple of months now, where as soon as I get to work, I look at the emails and see what seems like an urgent matter. As soon as that part is done, I just shut it off for 2 hours, for 3 hours. I focus on the task at hand. I do what I need to do. Then after a couple of hours, I would just keep that next 30-minute window open for all sorts of notifications that need to come my way. The same thing applies to Teams messages or Slack messages. Do not give the permission to your coworkers, to your colleagues, that they can constantly just knock at your desk every time they require something. That's not the precedence you want to set for yourself. You need to be in control of this time slot, this dedicated focus time that you have. Now, this is in terms of work-related stuff, but that same thing applies to our phones or any notifications that we get on our laptops. One thing that I seriously find really helpful in terms of phones is, and I know that every productivity book talks about out there, but I've tried it firsthand. Of course, I fail at it because I'm human too, is organizing the apps on your phone. What I mean is, always get rid of the apps that you know are the cause of distraction in your day-to-day life. For me, it's Instagram and every other social media out there. I've tried this many times before, where I would uninstall it for a few days because I feel the pull too strong. I reinstall it back. And I've noticed this, that if you uninstall it, you would notice the amount of hours that you gain back, the time that you gain back in your day, and then you realize, wow, I was wasting so much time out of my day just doing on nonsensical, mindless scrolling on my phone all this time. That's why this type of organizing of your apps on your phone is utterly important. So there is a workaround to this as well. So if I uninstall Instagram for my phone, I tend to go on my browser and going to Instagram.com. That defeats the purpose. I get that, obviously, but that pull is too strong for me. That's why I can't avoid it. But the good part about this is the browser for Instagram really, really sucks. So within a couple of seconds, I realized that this is not what I was looking for. So I just shut it off and then I move on with my task. That's one really great benefit I have noticed every time I uninstall the apps that I know for a fact that are pulling me away from my goal, that are pulling my focus away from what I really need to do right now. And that's the app organization part of it. But there is another side of it that is really beneficial for anyone who's looking for prioritizing their time to and their focus for the work that is at their hand, but the phone is their pull, their trigger that is pulling them away from the distraction. And that is an app called Opal that was recommended to me by Ali Abdul. He's a famous YouTuber. I'm sure everybody knows him. Everybody knows him. This app has the ability to create a time slot on your phone, which essentially works like a focus mode, where you can put in all the apps that you don't want to touch within the time frame. So in my case, I usually keep it from 9 p.m. till 9 a.m. and I put in all the apps in there. About 8:55, I get a notification that in 5 minutes, all the apps are going to be out of touch for the next 12 hours. That's the beauty of this. And once that session starts, yes, if you have an urgency, then you can shut this app off. That's the thing with every single trigger out there. Yes, there are ways around it. Just like I said that if I deleted Instagram, I started using my browser. But you need to start somewhere at least. And that's where this app really helps. Because when you open Instagram, within that window, it will tell you a nice quote saying that you are wasting your time here right now. Just deep breath, breathe out, exit. It gives you these motivational quotes that and sometimes reality checks of what you are doing in the time frame that you shouldn't be. And that's why this app actually helps a lot in controlling your time. There are times where I would be honest about this, that I start the window at 9 p.m., which is amazing because it's a good reminder for me that I've been spending too much time on my phone. But when I wake up, it's supposed to go off at 9 a.m. in the next morning. But every time I wake up, I go use the bathroom, I shut this off at 6 a.m., 5 a.m. whenever I wake up. Now that defeats the purpose, I get it, but I'm trying my best here. But I know for a fact that this works. And I've tried to, this constant reminder that the app gives you every time you open it when you're not supposed to, that gives you a 25-second timer. That do you really want to open this app? You can block off this app right now and then go by your business. That's completely fine. But just wait for 25 seconds, wait for 30 seconds, wait for 20 seconds before you can exit out of this Opal app that will unlock everything on your phone. Those 25 seconds is a reality check that what are you trying to do? You know this is not okay for you. In such cases, I've actually tried and failed many times that I would keep my phone away in the bathroom whenever I wake up, because I know that this is not the best use of my time. So in such cases, when a method, an app that allows me to save my time fails because my pull is stronger than this app, then I need to introduce another level of barrier here. And that barrier is just keeping the phone away while I'm using the bathroom. Things like this are constantly going to work against you, but it is our job to sit in that discomfort. That's what this ultimately comes down to. As he said, time management is pain management. We need to be okay. We need to be comfortable with that discomfort that we are sitting in right now. That's what all these productivity hacks and triggers, internal trigger, external trigger, that's all it comes down to. That we are trying to sit in that discomfort for as long as possible. So those are the two triggers that Nir talks about in this book. And the next one that I really think every productivity book out there talks about, and different books say it differently. For example, in the book Make Time, it's called Highlight of the Day. In the book Eat That Frog, he talks about eating the ugliest frog early in the morning. In this book, he talks about time blocking. What this essentially is saying is that in your entire day, you might have 10 items to do throughout the day. But there is always 1, 2, 3 items that you know are the highest priority. That is the highlight of the day, or that is the hardest task that you know is going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. That is the ugliest frog because it's the hardest item. If you eat that ugliest frog first thing in the morning, you have completed the hardest task that you have for your day. Once this frog is complete, everything that happens after that is just a bonus. So that's all this is. In my case, I have noticed that the best way of energizing myself mentally, sure, physically as well, but mentally, because it gives me a satisfaction, that satisfactory feeling, is working out. That's why it doesn't matter what kind of a day I have planned going on, I would always have a workout session planned first thing in the morning. Now, I understand that not everybody has this luxury. People have different priorities, yet their work time starts much earlier than the rest of the world. They have kids, they have other urgent priorities that they need to attend to. If that's the case, that's fine. You can find that highlight of the day or that block of time, and you need to find a time during the day that you can put in at some other part of your day, maybe in the evening, maybe in the afternoon, maybe once your kids are asleep and now it's 10 p.m. And that's when you dedicate that time block for yourself. That time block for me is working out. For some writer, it could be writing 5 pages before the end of the day. For a YouTuber, that could be finishing a script for their next video. It could be anything. But we have to realize one thing here, that just because you decide, okay, I'm going to start time blocking right now from tomorrow, it's not that it's just going to work, because it takes time to reach that efficient level where you are able to be comfortable with that time blocking method. Plus, you enjoy the journey over there. You enjoy the way you are dedicating that time, that focus towards the task that is in your hand right now. That's why don't expect that everything is going to fall perfectly on your first try. I've always thought that for someone to be fit, you need to work out 6, 7, 5 times a week. That's what I've always thought. And you need to work out over an hour, maybe hour and a half every single day. But after years and years and almost a decade and trying to be fitter than I was before, I finally realized that more than the idea of working out every single day, working out hour and a half every day, every time I go to the gym, what's more important for me is that I need to dedicate some sort of a time block throughout my day. Now I'm at a workplace where I start work really early, which is why I have dedicated 15 minutes of my time every single work day. The days I work out 15 minutes in the morning. And on my off days, I would spend hour and a half at the gym, which is why I'm able to be happy and I have that satisfactory feeling day in and day out, because the highlight of my day, I ensure that is being taken care of. After which, if anything else happens, that's great. That's just bonus. If it doesn't happen, who cares? I took care of my ugliest frog. I was able to block off a time where nobody else is allowed to interfere in that. So that's what time blocking is all about. And as I said, don't expect to have that perfect week. If you try out something this week, you realize this is draining energy more than it's giving me any kind of energy, then that's fine. You try something else tomorrow. Run with that for a week. Maybe it's going to take a few weeks before you adjust your entire schedule and find different time slots where you are able to be most productive while taking care of the highlight of the day, while eating that ugliest frog. Those are just different methods that you have to try. You have to constantly reiterate week after week, day after day. And after months and months, in my case, in everybody's case, it might take years and years on end before you realize what truly matters to you. But time blocking is one efficient way of ensuring that whatever focus you are trying to do, in that time frame, once you are comfortable sitting in that discomfort, in that time block, nothing else is allowed to enter, including the distractions that are pulling you away from your focus. So that's what the author is trying to say as one of the actionable items, time blocking. After all of this, I feel like I found there are many, many quotes in this book. There are 2 that I really want to discuss with you about. The first one is, even when we think we are seeking pleasure, we are actually driven by the desire to free ourselves from the pain of wanting. This comes back to the same point that at the end of the day, humans want to get away from discomfort. It's our job to find out what gives us that discomfort, but at the same time is most beneficial for you in the long run. So it's our job to find out which discomfort, which pain are we willing to sit in for an extended period of time. And the second one is time blocking enables us to think each week as a mini experiment. As I said, not everything is going to be perfect from tomorrow. If you start to time block from tomorrow, every week is going to be different. Some things are going to energize you. Some things are going to drain you. That's why it's important to try it day after day, week after week, see what works for you, and then play along with your priorities, what your life looks like, what your task looks like. Everything is different for everyone. Everybody is individual with their priorities and urgencies. For me, it's 15 minutes of workout every day. For an author, it is writing 10 pages every day before they step out into the world, looking at other people's priorities. So every week is a mini experiment. You have to constantly reiterate that and see what works for you. Sometimes it's different phases. This method might work for 3 months for the next 3 months. But there will come a time where you know your life is about to get busy. Then you would have to readjust that time blocking method entirely for the next 6 months. So it's constantly an experiment that you have to play with just to ensure that that focus that you're looking for has a time block within your day. Long story short, understand what is the true meaning behind traction and distraction, and understand what is pulling you towards the goal and away from your goal. Next, eventually everything will be a trigger, internal or external. It's up to you to decide how you want to play with the cards that are dealt for you. It's okay to be in that discomfort of not reaching for that distraction. That's what the entire book is about. There are going to be triggers out there. There is always something pulling you. Your job is to sit in that painful moment. Use the 10-minute rule and tell yourself, you will give yourself a 10 minutes heads up before you reach for that phone, email, or Slack message. Always give yourself 10 minutes. Be aware of what's just happening to you, what is triggering you to reach for your phone. Promise yourself you won't touch your phone next time you're in an elevator or standing in line at a coffee shop. That's one thing that I feel like was taught in some other book as well. When we talk about reaching for our phones, have you noticed that we are so constantly distracted that if you go stand in the coffee shop line, you take out your phone immediately instead of just looking around, seeing what's going on. The same thing applies at the elevator. That 10-15 second elevator ride, we tend to look at our phones. So promise yourself that in the next elevator ride, you are not going to touch for that phone. You're not going to go for that phone. For me, I park my car and I have to walk 10 minutes to my building. I have taken the stance that in that 10-minute window, I'm not going to touch my phone. As soon as I get off my car, the phone goes in my pocket and that's it. I don't touch it until I reach my desk. That's the promise I make to myself. So figure out what mini time slot that you are trying to control and sit in that discomfort of not going for your trigger, not going for that distraction. It could be your coffee shop line, it could be the elevator ride, or it could be just a 10-minute walk from your car to your desk. Figure that out for yourself. Yes, download the app Oppo because yes, there are ways around it, but if you really want that app could actually help you gain your focus back. Organize your phone and get rid of the apps that you think are draining you. Keep the apps that are energizing you. And lastly, prioritize activities that you know will take you towards your goal and take away the triggers, the notifications, the devices that are pulling you away from your focus and distracting you from your goal. Whatever way you decide to do this, the highlight of the day, the ugliest frog, should always be at the top of your daily to-do list. So that's it. I hope you like this tiny little summary, my take of it, the author's take of it, what I gained out of this book. Thanks for listening. Subscribe to this podcast if you like this episode. I'm planning to get more guests, but I'm in the middle of it. And once I get that, we'll be able to learn a few things from those guests and from their stories, from their life experiences. If you enjoy such content, subscribe to my podcast. I'll see you in the next one.